Welcome everyone. We're finally back together after a long time. I'm very, very happy and excited. This is a moment of great excitement. Our industry is experiencing a considerable growth. It is a global growth. In fact, it's not limited to single nations. In the US market, they had a 12% growth, and we're talking about of 246,000 registrations. The Indian market, that is actually the largest market in the world, plus 25%, 680,000 machines. The German market growing by 7%, 26,000 machines. UK and Spain plus 20, plus 13%. Another market very close to us, Turkey, plus 49%, 40,000 machines. Very far from the reckoned figures a few years ago, but very, very strong. So we can see the European Association reported a growth continuing throughout the first semester of 2022. The Russian market plus 22%, or 24% here, and the Japanese market started very shy at the beginning of the year, but has now reached plus 36%, 11,000 machines over 30 HP. And the Italian market, you can see here, these are the figures. It's an unprecedented situation. Registered tractors first 9 months, plus 44%. Last year was a bad year, of course, but if we look back at 2019, we had plus 27% compared to the first 9 months of that year. Combine harvesters plus 50%, telescopic handlers plus 78%. So the market is growing exponentially. We have a considerable increase in the production of agricultural machinery, some of them not officially registered, but there's nevertheless an increase for most companies of over 20%. So most manufacturers report plus 20%. So plus 27% for trailers and gardening machinery, plus 15% expected. So it's a particularly exciting moment, not only for the domestic market, but also for exports. So exports of tractors for 6 months, plus 26 months. Agricultural machinery, plus 24%. So our sector is proving to be extremely thriving. The considerable recovery after a 2020 that started very bad. The manufacturers were totally stopped. There were many that couldn't work for a long time. Production should now exceed 14 billion euros, plus 22.4%, according to our estimates globally. Let me remind you that one of the 3 top countries in the world, who used to rank 3rd, but hopefully with these incredible results we can go up at least by 1 place. Over the last few years, the agricultural machinery market has been more or less stagnating, but last year, in spite of the pandemic and manufacturers not working, plus 0.4% was recorded. So something had been recovered. estimated registrations of tractors should be about 23,500 machines. So hopefully we can manufacture a little bit more than that, but if certain supply chain issues can be solved. What are the reasons for this growth? Certainly, there's a considerable global recovery. Latest estimates indicate a world GDP over 5%, 5.9% with sustained growth into 2022, plus 4.9%. Italy should record 6.1%. In 2022, Italy is apparently doing better than other European countries. The growth is the result of investment proneness, which is particularly keen recently. Commodity prices are going up, and that has a positive impact on agriculture. And central banks are supporting investments. Farmers and importers can get easier loans to buy their own machinery. So production was quite good. In fact, during the summer, cereals were a bit less than the previous year, but that was compensated by rice production. But in some areas of the world, things were very, very favorable. Not only in Europe and Australia, but in other countries they had too much rain, or the weather was particularly dry. What about the future? So, looking at the future, we can expect considerable growth in agriculture. These are FAO data. By 2030, the world population will exceed 8.5 billion people, and we have to feed all these people. Every year, we lose 12 million hectares of land due to desertification. So, in order to produce more with less, because the market and the world are asking for a plus 18% production in agricultural produce, and also increase the production of meat, plus 13%. So we need to help farmers invest. So we're losing land due to desertification and water consumption 6 times higher than 100 years ago. We need to invest on technology and make the best use of existing arable land. So farmers' incomes are supported by government's public money. The US allocated 37 billion for that. China launched a major program to promote agricultural production. In India, a double income for farm, another important plan. The EU and Japan are providing different forms of support to the farmers. So there are lots of incentives. So we need to look at sustainability as well. The farm-to-fork approach, increase production and improve quality while reducing the use of fertilizers, minus 30%, and plant pharmaceuticals. We know how to do that. We need investments, and these investments cannot be paid for by the farmers. We need public support by the governments, or we're going to see an increase in the cost of commodities and resulting social upheaval. Another major problem in agriculture is the use of freshwater resources. Compared to 100 years ago, we are using 6 times more freshwater resources. Agriculture absorbs 70% of freshwater resources, so we're the top users of freshwater globally. Investments are now aimed at improving optimizing the use of freshwater resources. Water savings are promoted. We live in a lucky country. We have a lot of water, but we're starting to see problems, and we need to think about the rest of the world and the countries that are suffering major water shortages. In order to do so, we need increasingly advanced farming equipment, and this is an opportunity to show our technological development. And I can tell you that technology on display at EIMA is the most advanced in the world. So technologies that can be used to make difficult areas arable and cultivated, maintaining forest areas and areas at risk, make the best use of forestry and the forest resources. Unfortunately, during the summer in Italy, France and elsewhere, millions of hectares of land were devastated by fires. Had we used our forestry resources better, we would have obtained free energy and less fires. If we clean our rivers and maintain our hilly areas, we can prevent hydrogeological degradation. We cannot, of course, completely eliminate it, but we can prevent problems like, what happened in Germany with dozens of people injured and dead. So we need to provide technology. We do have the machines that we need to do so. We need to promote teamwork to help farmers and policymakers that we can obtain a lot from agriculture while respecting agriculture more at the same time. But in order to do so, we need more investments. We need to look beyond our mental boundaries, or we'll never bring technological transition to full achievement. All these positive aspects tend to clash with a number of criticalities, because critical factors, there's demand cannot be met due to a number of glitches and shortages, like the shortage of containers with increasing costs and freight and freight transit times. The World Container Composite Index shows an increase by 292%. September 2021. In the past, a container from Europe to China and vice versa would take 20 to 25 days, depending on the port hubs. Now we're reaching around 60 to 7 days. If I can book a container to export a machine to the United States, it takes me 5 weeks to get a booking. And transit times by freight gotten very, very long, and of course these lead times have a negative impact on exports for us, and we are an exporting country. And then increase in raw material prices. Since September last year to date, sheet metal increased by 234%. Hard coils, steel coils, plus 200%, aluminum plus 75, copper 120, polypropylene, polyethylene, very basic plastics in agriculture, plus 123 or plus 160, electricity costs plus 363% more expensive, and we've seen that in our bills, gas and electricity. So steel mills are implementing increases. So we're going to see an additional increase in these prices. These are in euros. And this is just about prices, because we don't we not only have to face problems here, but we have certain materials that are really experiencing shortages, such as silicon, triggered by production cuts in China, have sent prices soaring for 300% in less than 2 months. Over the last few days, we've heard worrisome news on power cuts in Chinese and Indian factories. Coal is not arriving into those countries, and this might be a disrupting event for many countries after them. Then, of course, we need to think about the future. We are getting ready for the next season. We are stocking materials, but our stocks will last between 6 and 8 months. China's cutting supply to Europe, so we are running the risk of experiencing a steel shortage. You certainly know that Italy is extremely weak from this viewpoint. The steel industry in Italy is quite weak. Europe, the relations between China and Europe are getting worse, so we need to develop a backup plan to be self-sufficient, or we're running the risk of stopping production of basic commodities and staple products. In order to do so, we need a lot of political support. Policy making is fundamental. Governments should provide guidance to our industry. There's a very interesting project called PNRR that allocated considerable funds to agriculture. We have European PSRs, regional projects, Agriculture 4.0, but of course policymakers, governments should be aware of how important agriculture and agricultural machinery matters in these countries. I'm really sorry to see that no one from the Ministry of Agriculture will attend the opening ceremony, nor will visit the exhibition in the next few days. So this means a lack of awareness and interest on the part of policymakers. This is very sad, because agricultural machinery and technology in agriculture are so important for all of us to promote our growth as a country and as a continent, and agriculture at a global level. With no technology, we go nowhere. We cannot go back to horses and oxes. We need to invest to produce 28% more food. I do hope that Italian and European policymakers become aware of that and pay more attention to this problem. The current sentiment is quite negative. There's some bitterness lingering. Tomorrow we're going to officially opening up the EIMA, an incredible event. We're looking forward to see each other. We're going to see many innovative products, niche machinery, especially in specialized agriculture. So nice to see you back, all of you, journalists and operators. This is a moment of great recovery. I feel like my first day of school, when you see old friends and like to get together again. No, we cannot hug each other, but we can, of course, enjoy each other's company. So I'll now give the floor to our General Manager, Simona Rapastella.
Buonasera a tutti.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to EIMA. Finally, we are back face to face in this exciting atmosphere of this EIMA. We're feeling the excitement and the happiness of being together again. So we're finally back. We do believe in this exhibition in presence, face to face, and we think it's a unique opportunity for us to meet. We believe in that so much that we never stopped over the last 3 years. We never got discouraged, and we kept going forward. And so since 2018, we've always been very determined to be strong and keep promoting our trade show. And we explore different avenues, sometimes challenging and complex, such as the digital technology. But that step into digital technology showed us that the physical nature of the event cannot be replaced. The pandemic has forced us to adopt a new approach and a new interpretation of the meaning of exhibitions, but the physicality of a trade show remains unique and unreplaceable. We had a digital experience. We can see a real exhibition based on digital media. So the digital technology is certainly part of our future. It's key to support face-to-face events. But it used to be a technical solution before the pandemic, whereas now it's become a strategic tool incorporated in our decision-making process for ourselves and for everyone involved in this industry. So we need to start by strengthening our relations with our clients. We need to strengthen the face-to-face event. We can meet new potential customers live, and it's only at the end of the process that can we start monetizing our offers on an online basis. So we are here at a meeting live. EIMA is now back face-to-face. It means being again all together, physically present in a real context, in a real setting. Then let's look at what happened. What happened where trade fairs couldn't be organized and were completely stopped. We have extremely negative figures, as you can see. This This survey was carried out by the Center for International Trade Fair Studies. Data were made available at the beginning of September. So 2019, 106 million square meters, 30 million square meters 2020, minus 72%. But if we look at revenue, the situation is certainly not much better, minus 68%, starting from 38 billion in 2019 down to 12 billion in 2020. This being the scenario, Europe is still holding the largest market share, 39% of rented space and turnover. Such a major reduction leads us to reconsider the future of trade fairs. But of course, we should consider changing our approach, changing our model, and improve our performance in order to meet the new challenges. Let's look at the new trends of the exhibition markets. You can see all the exhibitions organized in the post-COVID period, so when live event resumed in many countries. This survey concerns around 30 international trade fairs and exhibitions mainly organized in Europe and in the Middle East. The arrows facing down, of course, do not point to favorable outcomes, minus 50% in the number of exhibitors and minus 40 to minus 60% in the number of visitors. But there's a heartwarming aspect that we shouldn't forget about, and it's about increased satisfaction. Quantity goes down while the quality of the trade fair experience goes up. So more satisfied visitors and better quality visitors. This is probably a result of the reduced number of visitors that have more time available for business contacts, more time to devote to customers and operators.
Gli eventi espositivi, l'analisi post-pandemica dice anche questo.
Recent data show that exhibition events are drivers of innovation. So, trade fairs and exhibitions play a fundamental role as drivers of innovation, growth and business in the supply chain. And sometimes, in order to understand how important something is, we have to be obliged to do without it for a while. And that, of course, happened for the trade fair industry. Trade fairs and exhibitions have become a reference point and play an important role as drivers of innovation, growth and business.
I fini, e quindi parliamo adesso per cui si va in fiera.
What's the reason why people visit exhibitions or post-pandemic exhibition data show more and better useful interactions. So people enjoy going to trade fairs and exhibitions much more than in the past. We have fewer people, but more time to do business with essential operators. Exhibitions being the reflection of the market that they represent. They offer a meeting place for demand and supply to meet. There's a new perception of the trade show event by operators as well. Look at the data. The last minute phenomenon. 50% of visitors decide to go right before the event. So this last minute phenomenon is becoming increasingly widespread. Making a last minute decision to do something, to go somewhere, so that we can be 100% sure we can do it. And that applies to the visitor's psychology. In fact, 50% of visitors decide right before the exhibition. So that's not planned in advance. So if you think about the importance of trade fairs and exhibitions in terms of the perceived importance by operators for their own business purposes, satisfaction has increased by 10% on average. Our federation has always been very close to EIMA. EIMA is the expression of an industry that we feel honored to represent through our federation called FederUnacoma, the federation grouping up manufacturers of agricultural machinery. So the strength of EIMA is also the strength of an industry that we represent. So we'd like to warmly thank all the companies that contributed to the organization of this great EIMA and always believed in the strength of our brand. Exhibitors are member companies that decided to exhibit their products at the EIMA. So we feel a sense of belonging that is very strong, and we decided to give them a special mention, FederUnacoma Loving Member. This is to celebrate and acknowledge this loyalty. Exhibitors at EIMA 2021 have understood something very important. They know they're not buying square meters. They know they're not buying exhibition space, but become part of an organizational machinery, of a value system, of an integrated service mechanism. All these companies have understood they can have an enormous opportunity meeting foreign delegations organized by the Italian Trade Agency and the Ministry. I would like to thank Councillor Romeo, who's here with us today. Tomorrow we'll have the Undersecretary of the Ministry of Agriculture, Mr. Malvio Stefano, so we can have interpreters support, legal support for contracts and financial instruments. We have a press room allowing for ample visibility throughout the 5 days of EIMA, B2B meetings with operators, launch of innovative products in an extremely global setting. And this is very much part of the magic of EIMA. And last but not least, the scientific content that is the reference point for the whole market. So scientific contents are very, very strong. These exhibitors made a strategic decision to be there, and we feel very proud to share the exhibition with them. Let's look at some figures for EIMA 2021. Let's start from this slide. We have 1,350 total exhibitors, minus 30% compared to 2018. So if we compare this figure to our average numbers, we can see that EIMA is performing quite well. Out of 1,350, 350 are foreign exhibitors from 40 countries. We have 300 operators from the official delegation from 61 countries and registered independent operators from 111 countries. We can see 100,000 square meters of exhibition space with 40,000 machine models. Organizing such an amazing EIMA has been a major challenge. We faced it with great determination because the countries involved would have represented a broad enough audience, and that manufacturers wanted and needed to go back face to face. And these figures confirm that our very brave decision was well taken. Well, let me tell you something about the visitors. How many visitors are we expecting? A question we asked ourselves throughout the last few months. We had to quickly look at statistical data and take 50% off from the number of visitors from previous editions. But we know that in 2018 we had extraordinary figures, an enormous amount of people. Taking away 50% of that means having 160,000 people. And let me tell you with great humility that this is a goal that we cannot be sure to reach. It's an incredible number, but EIMA has an amazing peculiarity. We're starting from top performance and great numbers, but EIMA can certainly be experienced in total safety. We've implemented all COVID regulations issued by the government. It's a rationalized, streamlined and sanitized complex. So we'll have to comply with the regulations and precautions. In 2018, we had so many people, it was very crowded, so we needed to streamline our layout in order to let people get a better view of machines and stands. We're going to have computerized ticket offices. We're going to have more assistance at the exhibition. Green pass is required to enter, so proof of vaccination. And we have 4 hubs for free testing. So visitors can be tested free of charge. 1 hub only devoted to international guests. So we tried to cover it all in order to show that you can organize and experience a safe exhibition. What about innovations and contents? EIMA 2021 has confirmed the 14 product areas. It's a very specific and specialized layout. This is one of our strengths. Contents will be offered in 5 thematic shows that you can see Here on the slide, we have something new, the new hall, the new pavilion number 37, provided by the Bologna Trade Fair for top quality visitors visiting. And one of the addition innovation is the external show area, kind of arena that almost exclusively dedicated to the TOTI finalists and the Tractor of the Year competition, so you'll be able to see the machines, and we'll have the media testing for bioenergy supply chains at the EIMA Energy area. Very rich contents. Therefore, we can say that EIMA confirms its character as an all-round knowledge incubator, is an amazing relationship machinery, and an amazing networking machinery. It's where operators and exhibitors can really get together and bring demand and supply together, and while creating extraordinary opportunities for all. Of course, we need to think about the future of agricultural machinery and the role played by institutions. There's an ongoing debate between industry, information, agriculture, education, training, and policy makers must be present as well, because it's up to policy makers to follow the requests of so many different stakeholders. We're going to have 120 events organized throughout 5 days. And this has been possible thanks to the precious cooperation and partnerships with universities, professional associations, and specialized publishing houses. Thank you so much. I know you're here, you've helped us and supported us in all possible ways. We've been able to develop a calendar touching upon a lot of strategic themes of agriculture and mechanization of the future. We're going to be talking about agriculture 4.0, innovations, environmental protection, bioenergy, safety, education, and specific training. As regards specific training, let me mention the EIMA campus that is back after 2018. The EIMA campus is a specialized training area with 11 top universities involved in the provision of training for new generations on farm mechanization. Another innovation is the partnership with the Bologna Commodities Exchange. They, in fact, will provide the listings and quotations of food commodities. This is just to show the close link between industry and agriculture. So this will be introduced by the President of the Chamber of Commerce, President of AGER, and the President of the Bologna Trade Fair. Let's look at the institutional representatives. So EIMA as a symbolic forum of innovation and future planning, as mentioned by our President, Mr. Malavolti, in his speech. This is not only important from an economic viewpoint, but also from a political one, because never before has politics played such an important role in providing guidance for future agricultural development. We're very happy because EIMA is becoming a symbol of innovation and planning for the future. We're very happy because this is for us a major opportunity to confirm our role. We'll have the Undersecretary, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Maio Di Stefano, Mr. Vaccarino, who's a member of the Board of Director of the Italian Trade Agency, the Chairman of the Agriculture Commission, Chamber of Deputies and Members, and he will come with a delegation. The Chairman of the Senate Agriculture Commission, with a delegation, and a regional agriculture councillors, the Emilia-Romagna region is going to be present, represented by the President of the Regional Authority, the Councillor for Agriculture, and the City of Bologna. We have the Mayor of Bologna, we'll give the floor to him later. We have the Mayor of Bologna and the Prefect of the City of Bologna. Europe will be represented by the Vice President for Agriculture, Paolo De Castro, Mr. Paolo De Castro, who will deliver a lecture of the future of the new Common Agricultural Policy, and he will come with a large delegation of European members of Parliament. We are convinced that EIMA is also a symbol of knowledge, but also a symbol of the link, a very close link between the agromechanic industry and university and education at large. And we'll have the Vice Chancellor of Bologna University, the top authority of our university here in Bologna. She will be attending as well. We'll have many friends and colleagues from agricultural trade associations, and also a large number of ambassadors and representatives from foreign countries who, in spite of all the difficulties still experienced in many countries where the travel restrictions are still in place. I'm talking about Kazakhstan, Argentina, Iran, Ukraine, Uganda, Senegal, and Turkey. Last but not least, two special mentions. One for Bologna district, fair district, qualified partner. They never got discouraged and never abandoned us. In a very challenging period, we needed to postpone the exhibition and change dates a couple of times. So the trade fair district really always partnered with us and supported us. And the city of Bologna is a very welcoming host. Because attending an exhibition face-to-face, live, providing a meeting place between supply and demand, so that has to happen in a welcoming city as well. They are not two completely separate containers, but two that need to talk, exchange, and find a way to partner together. EIMA as an event has a considerable impact on the city, on catering facilities, hotels, trade, transport, and of course the beauties of Bologna can be enjoyed. Bologna is amazing historical and cultural treasures. After 2 years of COVID pandemic, it's nice to see that EIMA is not just a trade fair, but an all-round welcoming system. We have various partners for all different trades, the Chamber of Commerce, shopkeepers, everyone really supported us a lot, and we felt their excitement and their enthusiasm, and they wanted to say welcome back to EIMA. Let's now give the floor to the President of the Bologna Trade Fair. Well, I could simply say, EIMA, welcome back. Well, of course, in times of hardship, relations become closer. EIMA has always played such an important role and has always held a special place in the Bologna Trade Fair District. This challenge and this pandemic has made our relationship much stronger. Of course, everybody's saying, well, everything's to be all right. We were right to believe that, but only a few months ago, it was quite a brave attitude. You needed to look beyond the dramatic moments that we all experienced. Thank you very much for believing in it and involving us along the way in the organizational process. So EIMA holds a special place in Bologna Trade Fair. It's always been an extremely successful event, and let me mention again the amazing attendance of 2018. But this time again, we're going to have very important attendance. We have a lot of innovations. We've made our trade fair district more streamlined and rational. We have the new pavilion number 37, our last born. As Mrs. Rapastella said, it was there, standing for many months, nobody using it, but it was there waiting for EIMA to come. And of course, innovation is necessary for anything in whatever area you're working in. I paid a lot of attention to what our speaker said. I can say very frankly that this trade fair is particularly dear to my heart. It's the one I prefer, I have to say, because agriculture is going to play a major role. Farmers were one of the few who were allowed and asked to go on working during the lockdown and the COVID pandemic in order to provide food to people that were stuck in their homes and couldn't go to work. So a very central role. Agriculture played a very central role. In order for this mission to be strengthened, we need to promote innovation as well. Agriculture will have to become increasingly sustainable. Sustainability goes hand in hand with innovation. Innovation in farm mechanization is fundamental. So we're very, very happy to host this new EIMA edition. We're sure it will bring us not only successful results, but also food for thought for future planning and strategies. Let me say that I join Mr. Malavolti for, I share the regret with him about not having any representatives of the Ministry of Agriculture at this trade fair. We need support and resources allocated to agriculture, and hope this can become increasingly clear throughout this week. Mr. Lepore is our newly elected mayor, has been our mayor for only a few weeks, because Bologna, and starting from the trade fair, is planning to innovate a lot. From different viewpoints, we want to retain our traditions while looking at the future, and I want to be the promoters of this new Bologna season, as we imagined and pursued for many years, and the new mayor knows he can rely on our partnership and support in performing this very important role. Let me conclude by saying, EIMA, welcome back, and welcome back to all the visitors that I'm sure will visit and crowd our beautiful Bologna, and we're seeing the smiles coming back to the faces of taxi drivers, hotel managers, and shopkeepers. They're all smiling again as they look at people coming back to Bologna. Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. It is my great pleasure to take the floor today to join everybody else in saying, EIMA, welcome back. I'd like to thank Mr. Malavolti and Mrs. Rapastella. I'm so happy to hear words of excitement. So it's been so hard imagining this new aim. I'd like to thank the Bologna Trade Fair District and its president, Mr. Calzolari. We've been striving for 2 years. For 2 years, it was very hard, and we could really see this industry declining, very sadly so, but we're already working for the future. We're not only planning recovery, but we're building our future. The COVID pandemic obliged us to adopt a paradigm change and implement those long-expected changes and adjustments that are now so necessary if we want this industry to pick up seriously. Bologna is a city is making important decisions. This is my first press conference as newly elected mayor of Bologna. We have presented our council that will work in the years to come. So we'll have a council devoted to agriculture, food production, and water resources. This is a very important function for a metropolitan city, as Bologna is actually becoming. We need to set agriculture at the center of our community and our economy. In our metropolitan city, agriculture plays an important role. A new generation can find jobs and a sense of fulfillment in agriculture, and it's good for our international reputation, because thanks to EIMA and the very many companies from this region that operate internationally, and Bologna has long been the world capital of agricultural machining. For us, EIMA has always been a strategic trade fair for, over 100 million euros of impact of this EIMA, these 5 days, so in terms of revenue for the city. But of course, trade fairs play a very important role in enhancing the reputation of our city and our region. Having your support and cooperation means communicating Italy and Emilia-Romagna to the world, and being able to tell the students at school. I decided to have a counselor for agriculture who's also committed to environmental education in schools. I think we need a cultural project backing all this up. And we'll set up a specialized task force on European funds. We've got 5 years to improve on that with our government and our regional authorities. We'll focus on 2 main projects. One is called Green Footprint, because we want to set up 6 new metropolitan urban parks, and this will go through the trade fair district and will change the image of Bologna. It will mean joining municipalities and thinking about urban agriculture. And the second would be the City of Knowledge, because the trade fair district and the surrounding neighborhoods, including the high-speed train station, will be allocated considerable funds for modernization of the trade fair district, for better quality of services and make it more welcoming, but it will be also about changing this section of the city completely, turning it into a technological park. So this is what we'll be doing in the next few years. We want to partner up in one of the most important challenges. It's going to be a major challenge, and we want to make the best use of European funds. We will have a technopole where a very large computer, very powerful, will be installed and set in operation. And we will have one of the largest trade fairs in Europe in this very district, and we feel very proud of it. We'll be working a lot on this, keeping EIMA here in Bologna. I know how challenging it was in the past years before the COVID pandemic to manage to retain the exhibition and keep it here. But listening to the figures and the commitment on the part of everyone, I feel extremely encouraged and determined to put all my enthusiasm and dedication to this. We owe it to the very many companies that were negatively affected, businesses that were so affected during the pandemic, but are now striving for a better future. Thank you very much, and enjoy the EIMA. I'd like to please thank you very much to our mayor and our president. We feel really moved listening to what you said. We are troublemakers sometimes for the Bologna Trade Fair Organization. When I'm calling them, they get scared sometimes. So we have a microphone, a roving microphone for all of you. If you want to ask questions or make comments, please wait for the microphone to be brought to you. We have a few questions from remote. Who's going to break the ice? And then I'll read the first question. Sorry, well, let me read this. The question is the following. President Malavolti mentioned that we should be becoming more Europe-centered. Is that right? My answer is no. We experienced extreme globalization of the last few years. Bye-bye. Thank you very much for coming. The mayor is leaving us. We experienced extreme globalization due to inexpensive traveling facilities. And the largest continental economies have become increasingly self-supporting. Companies prefer to buy on their own continent. Many small to medium businesses understood what was going on and decided to open branches abroad on the most important markets. In the past, our companies would go abroad to low-cost countries to outsource their products at competitive prices. Whereas over the last 10 years, the trend has changed. Businesses are starting to buy companies with large markets, and the evolution of our machinery has led to increased specialization on a continental basis. An Italian company opening up in China is going to cater for the Chinese market, not the European or North American markets. This is the trend. I do not foresee any decline. Some niche countries will keep exporting all over the world, as they will not be able to open any subsidiaries abroad, whereas largest, more structured companies will open subsidiaries in each client continent. I don't think this means this is meant to have a negative impact on exports for our companies, accounting for 2/3 of our revenues, 65 to 70% on average. Let me read another question. For the first time, after such a long time, we're going to have an EIMA 2021 and one in 2022. The closeness of the two events, is it an advantage or a disadvantage? It is actually an extremely complex question to answer. Clearly, EIMA had to be moved to October 2021 for reasons that everybody knows. Of course, no trade fairs could be organized. They were totally stopped. But we believe that EIMA 2021 is the first one after 2 years of total stoppage of any agricultural machinery trade fair. So this EIMA marks an important moment of recovery. A renewed determination to thrive and be strong. Clearly, EIMA 2022 will be different. We've been able to restore our relations and our links, and will then promote more innovations and new drivers for next year. I don't think it's going to be a disadvantage. It's an extraordinary condition that we should try and experience in the best possible way, because next year EIMA will be back to its historical dates, November 2022, so we'll go back to have biannual exhibitions, so it will be back in 2024. Any questions from the floor?
First of all, congratulations on holding a first physical exhibition. We were all fed up of the webinars and online presentations. So it's good to be back in a real good exhibition And my question is about the supply chain disruption that you mentioned, which was basically about the Chinese steel, which is not available. So on the one hand, you are showing very high growth of machines, which is to some extent offset by the very high cost of transportation, logistics, and the cost of raw material. So in the long run, do you see alternatives which are closer to Italy, if Italy is not a very strong position to produce steel? Number one. Number two, you mentioned that being Eurocentric may not be but maybe one of the countries or collectively can solve this problem for short or the long run? My comments.
Okay, I will answer you in Italian, so you can hear the translation in English, just for everybody to understand what I'm saying. Penso che abbiate tutti capito la domanda, comunque si intuiva abbastanza bene. Sì, ci sono grossi problemi di...
Yes, thank you for your question. We have disruptions in our supply chain. That's right. Our industry has not been heavily affected over the last few years, but many automotive plants had to stop operation. We're starting to have problems due to steel exports cuts from China. China is experiencing considerable domestic growth, and last spring, when prices went up, decided to stop exporting ferrous materials, not only to Italy or Europe, that applied to all over the world. They decided to keep their products for themselves. In Italy, we have the largest steel factory in Europe, or we had it. Hopefully, the policy makers can do something to revive production in this area, boosting the Terni steel factory so that we can get some supply. There's good steel production in Germany, France, Spain, and Eastern Europe. So for the time being, many steel factories are reopening their furnaces. It's not easy, but my personal forecast, and I hope I'm not proven wrong, that by February, March, April, the steel situation should stabilize in Europe, at least in Italy, or we'll have great trouble keep manufacturing agricultural machinery, and see a growth in our market. I'm not really so much worried about steel, but I'm more worried about silicon and semiconductors. In this period, a new factory has just be opened not far from Milan, if I'm not wrong, near Milan. Well, they started 4 to 5 years ago with the investment. They planned a lot in advance. So manufacturing semiconductors is quite challenging. You need to invest a lot of money. You need large facilities. So the greatest danger for next year regards semiconductors, not so much the shortage of steel or high prices. Of course, we'll manage to get by, but that will have a considerable impact on final users. So more expensive farm machines or food commodities mean that people have less money to spend on everything else, and so that will have social implications. Any more questions? You're very shy today. Last year there were so many questions, we had to stop you. About the PNR. So So what's the recovery plan? What's going on? Are you asking for something more? You asking something more from the Ministry of Agriculture? This is the first one. So PNR, 500 million, 400 for farm mechanization and 100 for the related sectors. So basically for agriculture 4.0. We have no draft program. It's just a general guideline. We had a meeting with Mr. Patronelli about a month and a half ago with 230 stakeholders from the whole industry, from the whole chain, and that was probably too many people. For agriculture machinery, divided by the number of years, it's not much. Back in 2011, the scrapping plan was much more far-reaching than the current plan. And so we're asking the Ministry of Agriculture, the Ministry of Ecological Transition, to consider additional expenses for circular economy, for instance. We have a wealth of forests not well managed. In the region of Sardinia, many forests were on fire because the escape corridors had not been correctly planned. They dated back to over 10 years ago and they were not correctly maintained. We have to clean our forests, remove easily flammable materials, and that takes up man-hours, manpower. We can produce biomethane, natural gas. So by investing on that, we can produce clean energy and better manage our forests and avoid the terrible fires experienced during the summer. I'm really very sorry about this situation because I think that we need to make well-thought decisions. But we need to know the technology that you're dealing with. Mr. Patronelli is very committed, takes part in many events organized by our trade to promote made in Italy products. He went to Italy a couple of days ago promoting our wines. But I think the Minister of Agriculture needs to know more about the technology behind agriculture. It's going to be very hard making well-weighed decisions on how to address and guide agriculture in Italy, promoting wine, grapes, grains, farmers' markets. It's so fine promoting them. So, they're taking a number of initiatives. But then, if you don't know much about technology, you can hardly plan your investments. I think farmers have to be able to rely on fertilizers and chemicals, the seeds, and farm machinery, mechanization. If you don't know much about these two important inputs, you're not going to obtain great results and you're going to spend more. We have wonderful agriculture, value added, really, but There are countries that export much more than us in terms of food. It's the Netherlands. The Netherlands is a small country, but they do export a lot of food commodities. They export twice as much in terms of food commodities or from the agri-food sector. So we need to be aware of that. So this is the second largest trade fair devoted to agriculture in the world. This is why I'm a bit angry at the Minister of Agriculture, because he should be more focused on technology. Well, what about agricultural machinery maintenance? Last year, we had 150 people that died in work-related accidents, 150 to 200. 2,700 days have passed since our last decrease. The 7 years, more than 7 years have passed. We've lost 1,500 farmers, meaning we buried them. They died. And of course, we want to sell more machines and more spare parts. We've lost 1,500 customers, businesses, family businesses, because when somebody dies on a farm, it's devastating. I don't know where the problem lies, because after 7 years, things should have changed considerably. We've shared that with unions, salespeople, manufacturers. We've written everywhere. We've done everything we could, but this decree on machine servicing has not taken off. The deadline was June 2021. That's long past. Nothing happened. I'm a religious person. I'm a believer. I go to church regularly. Because I do hope that by the end of 2022, this decree can see the light. A young man died a couple of days ago, crashed between two tractors. This is a state-sponsored slaughter. 1,500 victims since the decree was passed. We're the laughingstock of Europe. All countries have their own rules on machine servicing. It's like letting cars be driven around with no safety belts or with bad brakes. This is due to bureaucracy.
Allora, la rottamazione è un termine che a me non piace. La revisione...
Scrapping is a word I don't like. Servicing saves lives. But I'd like to see different provisions because the scrapping plans are short-lived. We need to replace a fleet of over 2,000 tractors. So we are celebrating reaching 23,000 tractors. So we need to completely replace our circulating fleet. So we need to pursue serious policies there. we need to progressively replace our circulating fleet. Machine servicing saves lives. Some machines should be out of the market. But we need to invest on new technology and get rid of the old technology. It shouldn't be a short-lived provision, but something progressive, ongoing. We want to gradually replace our circulating fleet. I'm not just talking about tractors, because I've seen sewing machines and other machines that should rather be in a museum and not on the fields. Well, if agriculture should protect the environment, also specific mechanical technologies are going to play an increasing role. Are you planning to open EIMA to new product areas for fire prevention and better use of water resources? These sectors are already represented at EIMA. Hydrogeological disruption could be further expanded at the exhibition, but we're working on it for our 2022 EIMA. But these product areas are already represented, which are meant for environmental protection of our, protection of our cities and promote better conditions for us to live in, where a machine can play an important role. At EIMA, we've long been pushing that. We have very many machines circulating, and farmers that have months where they don't work. Why don't we promote a targeting program envisaging funds for farmers to use their time to clean canals, mountain rivers, forests? So this is a very smart environmental protection. The machinery is available to these people. We can clean riverbeds, but we need a broader political project to do so. So we need to clean our forests and use that material to produce biogas. And in fact, what we produce is only fires.
Congratulations. I'm a little confused here. My question is that without the support of the Ministry of Agriculture, how can the international trade is expected to grow? I mean, Ministry of Agriculture is responsible for agriculture support, not necessarily for, international trade. Mm-hmm. So I'll be thankful if you could be able to answer.
I will always answer in Italian, so you can understand. Then, sorry, hear my voice in English with headphone.
Well, I think that international trade will grow, even though this international trade will change and will be affected by increased transport costs. There are two trends. One is animal husbandry that will increase in over 10%, and then the agricultural sector will increase by 28%. Agricultural machinery are more efficient, and over the next 10 years there will be an average increase by 15 to 20%. There are different types of farm machines. We are working on two areas. We have the Germans and the Americans working on open field machines, tomato, potatoes, grains, sorghum, and other staple products. And we in Italy we're working a lot on fruit and vegetables. So we have a smaller country, so we had to invent ourselves. And there's another global trend. Unfortunately, the farming sector consumes too much water. Protein in a steak consumes 4 to 6 times more water than the same protein in a plant. So I think we need to invest a lot on fruit and vegetables, produce more vegetables and more fruit, because they are better for you, they provide a better diet, can be more easily transported, and give more added value. In Europe, 25% of fruit and vegetable production, 75% is open field, but this 25% provides a lot of added value in agriculture. So we do hope that our investments can be successful in the long term. We need to produce other products, sorghum, potatoes, potato and grains. In Italy, we're talking about 0 mile products, not saying it has to be 0 mile, but a very small area. Data on sales of tractors point to considerable growth all over the world, but nothing is known about Africa. So the historical African gap, is it reducing, is it decreasing or increasing? Unfortunately, it's not decreasing. There were more tractors back in the 60s and 70s than in 2010. That's dramatic. I traveled to many African, sub-Saharan and subtropical African countries. So they have 3 harvests a year, and we only have 1 in Italy. They have a huge potential, but unfortunately the political situation in many countries does not allow for investments to be made. So we need to ask our foreign ministry, for instance, to promote better knowledge. We shouldn't give them tractors for free. We need to teach people to grow crops and use simple machines. We don't need to give them 400 HP tractors, because when they break down, they can't be used anymore. Simple machines, easy to service and maintain, to help them produce more. That's the richness of Africa, the wealth of Africa. Unfortunately, there's no political stability, but Europe in general and Italy has to export knowledge. We need to export our best teachers and professors, send them to teach in Africa, train students. We should import students, teach them how to grow crops, and then send back to their own countries. It's not easy. FAU is not being able to do so in so many years. Let's hope things will change in the future. Final question. Final question.
Visto che sembra essere una tendenza non solo italiana, quanto secondo lei incide il sostegno?
What's the impact of public support on total demand? In Europe, 20-25%, in the US, 30-35%, some countries up to 40%. For me, as a businessman, it's a barbarian approach, because they keep the value of food commodities too low and creates market distortions, and investments are chosen based on laws so that sometimes were not conceived correctly. In US, they invested $37 billion on US agriculture last year. In Europe, we've reached 12 the last year, less than the year before. So that applies to all countries. China and India are investing huge amounts of money in their own agricultures in order to keep food prices low. We're trying to do that in a smart way. I'm totally against direct payments because I think they are totally wrong paying farmers for the hectares they own. They pay based on what the crops they grew 20 years ago. In fields that may have become fallow land, we should promote a self-sustainable agriculture. In countries such as Australia and Canada, they have a self-supporting agriculture, no public support. We need to reduce VAT on food products, promote processing and the value chain, and so reduce taxation. We can obtain the same results and make the market a little bit more free. If there are no more questions, so you're all invited to join us for a cocktail so that we can officially open. So see you back tomorrow morning for a nice tour of the exhibition.